Hey all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren, and today we have a returning guest, Mr. Greg Mrvich of Ballistic BBQ YouTube Channel. Greg was one of my first guests when I started the podcast, and I'm welcoming him back today to talk about a new book he's got. I'll be right back with Mr. Greg Mrvich of Ballistic BBQ.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast, everybody. I want to welcome my guest today, Mr. Greg Mrvich of the Ballistic BBQ YouTube Channel.
Yeah, I appreciate being asked to talk on your podcast, Aaron.
Well, you were one of my first guests that I had on my podcast, so I'm always glad to have you back. So let's talk about who you are and all that, so the people that haven't listened before can figure out who you are.
All right. Well, live in San Diego, California, and I grew up just loving barbecue. I mean, it's always been my favorite type of food. I grew up watching my dad and my grandfather cook outdoors. And anyway, about 9 years ago, I guess now, I started a YouTube channel called Ballistic BBQ. Actually, it was 3 years after I started it that I became serious with the channel, and just sort of feeding my addiction and making YouTube videos became another addiction.
Yeah, I can understand that. I've been cooking probably since my mid-teens. Started out watching my mom cook and all that. So it's always been a passion of mine, and barbecue in the last 15, 20 years has kind of taken over. So I can understand that. Let's talk about your YouTube channel again. Ballistic BBQ is probably one of the first ones I remember watching when I started getting back into YouTube a while back. So how'd that start? How's it growing?
Well, it started, I was a consumer of videos, but back when I was watching, there really weren't a whole lot of dedicated channels to outdoor cooking. It was more or less, guy would be working on his motorcycle in one video and then cooking a pork shoulder in the next video. The only really dedicated channel back when I started was the Barbecue Pit Boys. And I just remember one day, my sister, my brother-in-law were coming over for dinner. I was barbecuing a pork shoulder, and right before I started, applying the rub and everything, trimming or anything, I handed a little piece of junk video camera to my wife, and I said, "Hey, videotape me." So, no lighting, no audio or anything. She just stood there in the kitchen while I was applying the rub and everything. And anyway, we videotaped the entire process. And I honestly thought that would be it. I didn't have any plans on making another video. I didn't have the channel name Ballistic BBQ or anything back then. And then all of a sudden the comments started rolling in, the views, and then I started getting, questions coming from people. Like, I remember one in particular was from Japan, and I thought, wow, this is cool. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life, just the interaction and everything. So I just continued making videos, and then again, about 3 years later, that I actually started taking it a little bit more serious than I was back then.
So I know you started out doing, barbecue but I've seen a lot of your videos where you've done some other stuff, where you went and you visited a butcher and they showed you how to break down, either a whole cow or a half a cow. I can't remember, but it was a big piece of meat.
Yeah.
And you've done some other things like that. I've seen you actually go traveling. You were visiting, I guess, your sister up in Northern California, and you did some videos from her house and stuff. So how do you like that? How do you like, traveling and doing stuff like that with the YouTube channel?
It's fun. The logistics are a little bit more difficult, whenever you're traveling, and I'm a one-man show in my video production. I don't have anybody helping me. I usually shoot in the middle of the week when everyone else is at work, and I do all my editing and everything myself. So the logistics are difficult when you're kind of taking it on the road, I guess. But it is something I want to incorporate in more of my videos. And actually, I have a going to be going up to LA here real soon with a few other. Actually, by the time I guess this podcast uh, airs, we'll already be up in LA, and probably going to try and incorporate some of the adventures, so to speak, in LA into a video.
Now, like when you hooked up with the guy at the butcher shop or whatever that was, I mean, how do they feel about when you say, "Hey, I want to shoot this for a video"? Are they open to it? Do they, ask a bunch of questions? Because I really have never done any of that with my YouTube channel, but I've always, thought maybe I should start, branching out and visiting some places like that and doing, incorporating more of that type of stuff into my videos.
Well, my strategy is always just to gain their trust. I want them to kind of know what they're getting themselves into if they do agree to my coming over. So I'll shoot them an email, introduce myself, tell them exactly what my plans are. Then I'll also share a link to my channel so they see what I'm doing, and usually that alone works. On some of um, my burger copycat videos, if it's a burger restaurant that's not near where I live, I'll shoot them an email and let them know what my intentions are. And you'd be surprised how many phone calls I've had with either the executive chefs or the owners of the restaurants. I've had them actually sharing technique and recipes with me. So I think it's just building that trust and letting them know they're not going to get slammed in my video. I mean, I'm actually trying to promote what they're doing. And that alone, I think, is my biggest asset when it comes to reaching out to those people or companies.
Yeah, I guess if they think that you're there to help promote them or exactly, not trash them or try to find the flaws, I guess
Yeah.
they'd be more open to it because, like you said, with the burger videos, you're actually there just to kind of replicate and show people how they can make those at home, which is kind of promoting their product anyway, So
Yeah, and I haven't had the experiences I've had, with the exception of Umami Burger, have been really really positive, and I think when someone's very confident in the product they're putting out, they don't mind sharing some of the little kind of insider tips or secrets.
right, yeah, I can get that. So I've seen you do some, amazing burgers. And how much time do you spend researching? Because you do burgers from like all over the country and all over the world, I think.
Yeah.
Now, have you visited all these places, or do a lot of them you just try to find out how they do it and to make it on your own without ever tasting the original?
Well, it really depends. I mean, if there's places that are within range of where I live or places I travel to, I'll put those on the back burner until I actually get um, to belly up to the bar, so to speak, and try the burgers. And I try to get an angle where I can watch them preparing it and everything, or I'll talk with the waiter, try to get a conversation going with whoever's cooking. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I've done burgers from like as far away as Amsterdam and Turkey. So I'm not going to be traveling into those places anytime soon. So I just try to dig in there and see what information I can find online, videos, vlogs, blogs. And like I said, if there are places within the United States, I'll call the restaurant and talk to the people. So I try to get as educated on the process and the ingredients and their sources and everything as I can before I kind of delve into it. Because, the easy thing, honestly, is just to use the name of one of those restaurants in my title and just kind of come up with something on my own. But that's not what I would consider a copycat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about it is you're not putting your stamp on it. You're actually trying to get as close to the original as possible, and you can tell that when you watch the video is that you say, hey, I'd call them, I've done this kind of research on it. So you're just not like, well, I heard they put bacon and onions on it, so that's what I'm going to do. You find out, exactly what type of onion they put on there, and if they, how they made that particular onion, if they grilled it or what, if it was raw. You do a lot more research than, hey, I heard they made a pineapple, hamburger, so I put pineapple and ham on a burger, and here it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be like an inspired burger, which I don't have anything wrong with those type of videos. I mean, I do them, but I'm not going to call a video a copycat unless I've really worked hard at trying to, make it as accurate as possible. I mean, I've even, I'll find out what brands of buns they're using, and I'll order directly from the baker. I mean, when I did a few Shake Shack videos, and I ended up having to buy way more buns than I needed, but I wanted to use the buns that they actually use on their videos.
Yeah, I first time I visited a Shake Shack, it was up in New York City about 5 months ago. I had, we don't have the closest ones we have here are in Orlando, and they just recently opened, so I haven't had a chance to. But we went to the one in Times Square, and it was actually packed, but it was pretty good. But I don't know, my kids weren't impressed. Maybe because it was overcrowded, and then that's all they really got out of it was really, really crowded for a burger place.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. And it's a very, very, very simple burger. And sometimes I wonder, is a burger, although I like Shake Shack, I think it's a good burger, but I would not wait in a big long line to get a Shake Shack burger.
I think a lot of times, and it's with like any type of brand, they get the buzz. So
Yeah.
it's more of the buzz type, oh, I heard this was great. And then people go, well, it has to be great because I heard it was great, kind of thing.
Hey, did you get to go to Hodad's while you were out here in San Diego?
No, I didn't have a whole lot of time when I was out there. I was there for work. So about the only thing I did besides hanging out with people from work was, going to dinner with you at that, Slater's. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of places, a lot of different burger places all around the world and the country here. But and everybody, one of them has their little differences, like Five Guys, and everybody's got their own burger. Back where I came from in upstate New York, we had just the side, on the side of the Greasy Spoon burger places that originated the smash burgers back in the day,
Yeah.
So they were just like the local Greasy Spoons you went and got a burger at. And then, along came McDonald's and Burger King. And we had one called Carol's back then that was kind of more, in the Northeast area of the country that they lasted about 10 years and they went under. But
I think you were talking about Culver's too, right?
yeah, Culver's, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, Culver's. I knew it was a C, and I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah, Culver's, they're okay. But I mean, it's, we get a lot of them down here because they're from the Midwest, and we get a lot of Midwest transplants here in Florida. They come right down I-75 and come down here to retire. So all the special restaurants and stuff like that come down here because they got automatic audience.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Chicago, pizza restaurants and, the Italian beef places, we get all that kind of stuff comes right down I-75. So
that's cool though. You're a little kind of a smorgasbord of different regions right there.
yeah, they bring them with them. So, and on the East Coast of Florida is all New York and New Jersey. So it's like, you go to one side of Florida, it's all Midwest, and one side it's all the New York, New Jersey, East Coast stuff. So it's kind of it's kind of an eclectic state here in Florida because it's all goes by what the interstates, what they drive down.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, so you recently retired, and we talked about that. I think when I was out there visiting back in May, it was like your last day for a real job because you were a police officer for over 20 years, was it?
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. So, and you retired here recently, and we were just discussing it before we started recording that you're busier now than you were when you were working, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I had a list of honeydews that I need to get started with, but these kind of opportunities arose my first week of retirement. So it's put a hindrance on some of the honeydews, but I'm actually slowly but surely starting to get on top of the projects that my wife would like me to finish.
Yeah. So what kind of projects you've been working on?
Well, my first week of retirement, I received an email from a publisher asking if I would write a book for them. So that was the first opportunity that came my way. And then actually, when I was shooting videos up in Northern California at my sister's house, that was because of a sponsorship that came down the pike that I jumped on. But I had to shoot the videos all up there, but those videos won't even go up until March. They start going up in March.
Well, that's good though. I mean, you jumped right out of, a regular job into doing some stuff that you like to do. I know that, when you're doing this part-time, like, you were, and I am now, it's something you really enjoy doing. You're not really doing it for the money, during the time that you're working, but it would be nice to, when you do, retire, you got, start to get a little bit of a compensation for all the hard work that you put into it. And especially if it's something you love, it makes it even better that you can do what you love and get a little bit of compensation for it.
I mean, it's been a blessing to my family and I. It's keeping me busy. It's like you said, it's something that I really love to do, and it's helping out. It's alleviated any financial stress that we had. There's anxiety as I was approaching my retirement. I was getting anxious because that was a job that I was doing more than half my life. And you have some doubts that kind of start creeping into your brain as that retirement date approaches. But yeah, all those doubts are gone, and I'm very happy. There's not feeling stressed out anymore, so it's a good thing. Again, I feel blessed.
Well, and I know from when I started doing this, a year and a half ago, it's not just I get to do what I like, but I'm meeting people like you that I can, learn from and, have a positive interaction with, and, learn new things. And, I had never edited a video in my life until I started doing the YouTube channel. I never, started looking at, doing a podcast or editing video or audio and all that until I started this. So, I mean, it's got me to come out of my shell more and get more comfortable getting myself out there and doing something that I, finding out stuff that I like to do. I love doing this podcast. I wouldn't have, if I didn't start it, I wouldn't have known that, and if I wouldn't have started it, if I didn't start the YouTube channel and the Facebook stuff, and then getting the positive. I mean, there's a lot of negative out there too, but there's a lot more positive. And if you focus on all the positive stuff that comes out of that stuff, it makes you a lot more, I guess, happier doing that kind of stuff. So you definitely, if you can walk into, retirement already having something set up that you like to do, that's positive, that you can still learn, as you're going as well. So.
Yeah, and it's like you said, man, it's you learn as you go, that's for sure. I mean, I had never edited a video or anything like this when I first started, and wow, I mean, now I'm rolling with like 5 cameras and separate audio, and it seems like every day I still learn something new, and now I'm trying to focus more on learning how to really balance my colors and the exposure, the lighting and all that stuff, because I guess I'm your typical guy. I don't read instructions or anything. I just sort of try to figure things out on my own.
Yeah, I do the same thing, but it's also, you get to do it on your time. You're not when you start to fine tune it, I guess. Yeah, when you first start doing it, you got to learn how to edit really quick, and you use something as simple as you can, like iMovie or something, and
Hmm.
just to put something up, on the channel to get it going. And then as time goes by, you start, okay, I want to take this more seriously. So I want to start learning how to use, some more advanced editing software and do some more advanced, things with the videos. And then yeah, you want to work on your audio. Now I wanted to get the best audio I can get. Then I want to get the lighting. I'm still kind of working on that. I still haven't invested a whole lot of money in lighting and cameras and anything like that. But it's a step. As you get better, get more comfortable doing things a certain way, then you could go, all right, what's the next step? What do I do now? It takes a long time to develop, it seems to me.
It does. Well, for some people, I mean, and I'm one of them. It's there's I've seen newer channels out there just explode recently, but unfortunately, there's a lot that is not under in our control. Everybody talks about the algorithm, the algorithm, and sometimes I think that YouTube just I don't honestly I don't know how it works. I'm going to Vid Summit here real soon for 3 days up in LA. It's at Daryl Eves. It hosts Vid Summit. Do you know who Daryl is?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. And hoping to walk away with a little bit more knowledge than I have, because everybody's always talking about the algorithm, and you see these videos with these very large channels talking about how damaging the changes YouTube has made to this algorithm has been to their channels. So I just want to find out how to work within that algorithm and maybe grow from it instead of being suppressed.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And then there's also there's a lot that you'll see every once in a while. You'll get somebody that gets a viral video that they've got 2 videos on their channel, and all of a sudden their third video, they got 1 million subscribers. It's like, how did that happen? And it's you could look at it and go, well, I can see how it happened, because it's a scantily dressed girl and she's talking about taking a shower in a van or something.
I know, right?
Yeah, so, and then it just kind of makes you gets a little frustrated because all the hard work you put into it. But I also think when you're trying to do something part-time and you're trying to put as much effort into it as you possibly can, it's still not enough, because you got people out there that have studio quality equipment. You've got people that have a lot more time on their hands to do it. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they, they have all day to sit there and look at every, aspect of their video and audio and everything. But when you're trying to do it part-time, it's a hobby. It's kind of hard to do when you're competing against
Yeah.
people that have a lot more
I
time. And
know. There's a guy out here in San Diego who has a channel. I'm not mentioning his name, but it's a cooking channel. And he started out. He had a pretty successful show out here on one of the local cable channels, and then he started a YouTube channel, and it was just sort of chugging along. I mean, it wasn't doing crazy numbers, and then all of a sudden it just exploded. I mean, in a very short time, he passed 1 million subs. But he's an Emmy-winning personality, and he's got a professional crew that does everything. So all he really has to do is show up and cook, and he's got a good personality. I mean, he's fun to watch. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but and I know you can relate to this when you're kind of handling everything. It's easy to lose focus on certain things, like maybe the personality projection, because I'm looking at the cameras, making sure that I have the right shot, or maybe something happened where I was presenting a piece of meat to the camera. Then I realized, oh shoot, the meat's not even in the shot. You know what I mean? So there's little stressors, I think, that can affect me personally, at least when I'm trying to shoot a video.
Oh, that's definitely, if you're, I do everything myself, so I completely understand what you're saying. Is when you got 3 or 2 or 3 or 4, or you just one other person there, it takes a lot of the stress off, because like you said, you're saying, oh, did I turn the camera on?
Yeah.
Did,
Oh,
yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I've not turned my camera on.
same thing with me. And, am I in the frame? I got to go out now. I got to stop and go check and see if the camera's framed right, that my head's not cut off, or, like you said, the piece of meat that can be seen or whatever, so.
Or your crotch is in the shot while you're slicing the meat,
I mean, like you said, there's several times where I thought I pressed start and actually shut it off, and
I've done that a billion
whole chunks of video you got to go back and reshoot. So
yeah, it's sickening. It's sickening. I've completely just trashed video. I mean, like, threw them in the waste can, the video, because of forgetting to turn on like the main camera or my audio or something.
all right. Well, I think we're going to take a break here, and enough talking about YouTube stuff, because probably a lot of people that are listening don't really care about our trials and tribulations with YouTube. But we're going to come back and we're going to talk about a couple of the books you've written, the sous vide barbecue book, and then you got a new book that you said is coming out here in the next couple of weeks I want to talk about as well. So we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back with Greg Mrvich of Ballistic BBQ. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to mention Inkbird Barbecue Products. They're the sponsor of our podcast today, and they have their Bluetooth 4-probe digital barbecue thermometer, the IBT 4XS, is on sale on Amazon right now for 20% off. Gets it to $44. It has a 500-foot range with Bluetooth. It works with your iPhone, Android device. You can monitor your pit temperature plus up to 3 different foods. Works great. Lots of options. Check it out on Amazon in the description below. I've got a link to it. Check out Inkbird. They have other products out there as well. Thanks for Inkbird for sponsoring the podcast. And now back to our show. All right, we're back with Greg Mrvich of Ballistic BBQ. And as we left, I said we're going to talk about books. You are an author. And the first book you wrote was a sous vide and barbecue book. And like I told you before on the first podcast you were on, is that you were one of my inspirations, because one of your videos with the sous vide briskets, one of the things that turned me on to sous vide and barbecue together. And then when I saw you wrote a sous vide barbecue book, that was even better, because I was able to delve into it even more. So it just got me really excited about it. And some of the stuff I found in that book really inspired me, and I wanted to do more experiments on my own and teach people how to do the same thing. So I think we talked about your book on that book before when you were on the podcast, but I kind of want to expand a little bit on it. How did you develop those recipes in the book when you were given the job to do that?
Well, sous vide, I was looking at it from, I'm not a chef or anything. I'm a cook. And I saw sous vide as a tool of, just to make things easier, and not a crutch, but just to make things easier. It's a really nice tool to use if you want to put out some great food and you don't want to babysit it the entire time. You can get it in the immersion and let it rock and then just finish it off. And, the way we finish the food off, the sear or whatever, adding some smoke, gives it that real flavor that you would normally have to, again, babysit the food at the grill or with a smoker to get. So I don't know if I was kind of rambling there, but that was the inspiration. And I remember the first time I ever did anything that was sort of sous vide was, have you ever, before you ever had an immersion circulator, like did a steak in a cooler with just, hot water with no immersion in there?
I never did. When I found sous vide, the circulators were already out there. And that's kind of what, I started seeing them advertised, and I was like, well, what is this thing? Kind of, and then I started delving into it a little bit more. And then that's when I kind of stumbled into it, and then found some of your videos and some other videos, some of Guga's, sous vide everything's earlier videos. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't get involved with the, cooler with hot water or crock pots with the, the on and off switch thing that a lot of people did. So, but,
So that was my first experience with it, and then a friend of mine bought me an actual immersion, circulator. But right off the bat, I started playing with sous vide behind the scenes. I wasn't making videos on this stuff. I was taking recipes that I had done conventionally and just incorporating sous vide into it. And I was really digging on the results. I mean, then the brisket video I did, the first one I ever did, I was just wondering, wow, with sous vide, because you can make meat so tender with it, can I cook up and serve a medium rare brisket and have it tender? And and I did. I mean, I sous vide that thing for, it was like 45 hours at, I want to say 130. And sure enough, I mean, it turned out it was really good, and it was nice and tender, had that nice beefy flavor. It wasn't like a brisket, like when you think of brisket, but it was good. And so anyway, that's what I did with the sous vide book. I was just taking other recipes that I do conventionally and just incorporating sous vide into them. And I think that's, in my opinion, the way I want to use the sous vide circulators. There's a lot you can do magic with those things, but I'm just sort of more of a conventional cook with the sous vide circulators.
Well, and that's the thing I try to tell people, especially the hardcore barbecue guys, that it's not going to replace, the 12-hour brisket cook on a smoker alone. It's just a different way of doing it. It's just like there's many different ways to cook brisket. I mean, you can go to, New York City and they make brisket in the oven and just braise it for, hours. So, I mean, there's different ways to cook everything. And if you can incorporate a little of each, it makes something totally different, like you did. You can make a brisket medium rare and then still get some smoke to it and have something totally different than if you cooked it 12 hours on the smoker alone. So, it's just, there's so many different things you can do with it that makes it a really easy thing to experiment with, and it just makes it fun, in my opinion. So that's what I was really going with that, is where did you get a lot of your recipes? In which that's what I try to do. I'll take traditional recipes and try to incorporate the sous vide and see how I can make it just a little bit different,
Yeah.
and the result a little bit different.
And all those recipes were just recipes I do at home. And again, they all kind of came from my traditional cooks, some of my traditional videos I've done. And the only difference is I cut out that, cooking with fire portion to break down and tenderize and cook the meat. And then I just finish it on the grill or finish it in my smoker or whatever. And, you were kind of touching on something that I just think it's really sad to me that there's so many people that are very closed-minded when it comes to, especially outdoor cooking. It seems, there's only one way to do a steak. There's only one way to do a brisket. And I honestly think that they're denying themselves some really great discoveries just by opening up a little bit, there's a lot of techniques I never would have tried had I not, again, made friends with guys that are in the competitive, barbecue world. And, for the longest time, it was fat cap up, 100, 225 degree pit, or else you weren't doing it right. But I think it's been proven time and time again now that, guys are putting out great brisket cooking in a 400 degree pit, and I think sous vide kind of falls into that. I mean, I don't see any competition sanctioning sous vide in the near future, but, I know you can put out a good brisket starting it off sous vide and then, finishing it off in the smoker.
Right. Yeah, I think the time factor on the contest like that, but I think you can incorporate it in the SCA, the state competitions. But then again, it's the same thing. You got the time constraints because sous vide does take time. But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right on what you were saying, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people, even Meathead and Malcolm Reed. That they're under the same thing, that no matter what, there's people that are just chefs that are the same way, though. There's only one way to cook a steak, only one way to cook something. It's not just the barbecue people. I think that it's big in the barbecue side, but it's also big in the all over cooking. You know, the chefs who've been classically trained, they get that mentality sometimes too, that they don't want to try anything new or different. You know, so a lot of people think that sous vide, you can only cook a steak with it or chicken breast too. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to dispel, is that, you know, the sous vide is just for making that perfect end to end, you know, medium rare steak, that there's so much more that it can do, that it's not just like a George Foreman grill or a Instapot or something like that. It's actually a method that has a lot more things you can do with it, you know, than just making it perfect steak or chicken breast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And make a cool egg with it too. I actually just for the first time, not too well, a couple months ago, did my first poached egg in a sous vide machine, a circulator. I'd never done that before, and I can't imagine why I would not have done that because have you done it before, Darren?
I haven't. There's a lot of things I still haven't, you know, tackled with sous vide. There's still so much I haven't even scratched the surface on with sous vide, but eggs is one of them. So
Need to give it a try. It's pretty impressive. And you're just dropping the eggs in the, you know, you're not bagging the eggs there. You just put them in the water in the shell.
yeah, I mean, there's so much thing you can do with it, and like I said, people get locked into thinking, you know, it's boiling the meat or, you know, whatever. I mean, it's if you once you start really looking at what the method can do and why it works the way it works, I mean, there's so much you can do with it. And like I said, it's not going to replace anything, but it's going to you can make things a whole lot better. You can make things different. You can, you know, do things you could never do with any other cooking methods.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that book has been a success. How long's that book been on the shelf now?
Oh, geez, I knew you were going to ask me this. It's been a couple years.
I was gonna say it's got to be at least 2 years, because I think that's when I picked it up when it first came out. It was about, you know, 2 years ago. So, but so the success of that book has been pretty good, or
Yeah, it's chugging along. I mean, it's still selling on Amazon pretty much daily, and it's in a few brick and mortars as well, like Barnes and Noble and a couple of the other bookstores. But,
and it's not bad because, you know, there's no advertisement behind it. You know, nobody's you know, actually actively marketing it, right? People are kind of just stumbling on it, right?
that is correct. Yeah, they're the pub. I mean, I probably could have done a better job of promoting it, but and the publishers, they really didn't promote it either. So it's just went up on Amazon, and like I said, it landed in a couple brick and mortars as well, and it's been doing pretty good. And I would expect that as the holidays approach, it'll probably start picking up again. You know.
Yeah. So let's walk into, since we talked about that book, and I think when we talked about that book before, you said what a experience that was, because that was your first time as being an author, and it kind of was a lot of hair pulling and, you know, writes and rewrites and going back and forth with the publisher. And so now you're coming out with a new book. And what's the new book about?
It's called American Barbecue Sauces, and then in marinades, rubs, and more from South and beyond. And it's basically rubs, wet rubs, dry rubs, marinades, glazes, barbecue sauces, condiments, and then there are also 15 actual cooks, like, you know, different recipes that I've come up with, utilizing some of the rubs and sauces and everything that are in the book.
So it's definitely just geared towards barbecue sauces and rubs and stuff. So it's not overall sauces. It's just geared towards barbecue, right?
Yes, but again, any of these cooks you could do, you know, sous vide. As far as the cooking, the 15 cooking recipes, but yeah, it's more of a geared towards the barbecue enthusiast, and it, you know,
So
covers the different regions in the country than a lot of my own recipes.
now, does this book go into like the history of barbecue sauces and, like, you know, some of the stuff I know you had to go into on your sous vide barbecue book? You kind of went into the history of sous vide and the history of barbecue.
Yeah, it starts out with the history of barbecue. I mean, we're talking about, you know, Christopher Columbus and the Spaniards basically, and then it also touches on some of the, like, you know, why in the Carolinas they use, you know, the mustard, you know, is so popular because, you know, because of the German immigrants and everything. So it goes into a little bit of the history, and there's a little story behind most of the recipes in there as well.
So you discuss like things like the Eastern Carolina barbecue sauce and where that came from, and the mustard based South Carolina sauce, and the Kansas City sweet type
Yes,
sauce and all that.
exactly, exactly.
Then you also talk about barbecue styles, like, the dry rubs from Memphis and all that as
Yep,
well.
all that's pretty much touched on with each specific region, and um, then, like I said, a lot of the recipes are mine, my own ballistic creations, so to speak. Which I mean, my influences are from all over the place, but yeah, I think I'm hoping people will dig this book. I mean, I had a lot of fun writing it, and I'm really actually very proud of this book.
So how much easier was this book to write than your first Sous Vide Q book?
It was definitely a lot easier than the first time. You start feeling a little bit more comfortable, I guess, with each write. This publisher also, they were a lot more organized than the last publisher, so that made a huge difference. I mean, a huge difference.
So you have a different publisher for this book than the other book, huh?
Yes, yes. This one, Callisto is the name of the publisher for this one, and they made it easy. I mean, it was well, it wasn't easy, but you know, they were just very, very helpful. I'll just say that.
Well, and I'm sure it's just like anything. Like when you first edited your first video for YouTube, the second one was easier and the third one's even easier. So, and once you get a few under your belt, so I'm sure that, your third book, which I'm hoping you said you're going to write a burger book. I'm hoping that one comes out soon because I'm looking forward to that. I know a lot of people are. So,
The burger book is actually in the works, and right now I'm writing it, with no publisher. I'm just kind of piecemealing the book together, and I want that book to be just very, very special. I mean, because it's burgers have been good to me, and um, so we'll see. Once I get the manuscript all done, then I just need to find someone to publish it. And if no one wants to, then I'll self-publish. But I'm going to go through and make sure that I have really good pictures of all the different burgers that are in the book and everything. But it's a growing book. It's going to be pretty hefty.
so speaking of that, how big is this your new book that's coming out here this month, on the sauces and rubs and all that?
It's a total of 75 recipes in the book.
Wow.
So it's honestly not because when you think about it, and this is something that the publishers realized, rubs, just there's not a lot to write. You're basically writing the ingredients, the prep time, and then ultimately it's put it in a container and mix it up. You know what I mean? There's none of the cooking instructions. So when the first manuscript, and again, I was kind of adhering, well, I wasn't, I was adhering to their guidelines. They wanted it to be 20,000 words and total of 60 recipes. And I gave them, 23,000 words and 22 or 62 recipes. And the book wasn't big enough for them. They wanted it to be bigger. At the time, they just wanted 5 cooking recipes. So they asked if I would do a few more recipes. So I gave them 10 more cook recipes and three more actual, rubs and sauces and such.
Yeah, because if you're just writing yeah, I've got a couple seasoning type books, and unless you're doing like just like 500 different kinds of seasonings, there's not a whole lot.
Yeah,
Like you said, you mix, this is your recipe for the rub, and that's it. You're not showing any kind of instructions on how to cook or anything like that. It's all just mix this stuff up and then throw it on your food. So
exactly. And
it's like maybe a page or two at the most.
yeah, my editor was telling me, because she's the one that was, the way Callisto works is they start looking at things that are trending, and they devise a strategy based on what's trending. And they noticed a kind of a gap out there, at least like on Amazon, for rubs and sauce recipe books. So that's where they went with this. That's how they landed on wanting me to do this particular subject. And they had never done one before that was just based on rubs and sauces, so they didn't really plan it out very well initially. But we fixed it. And I think it's a better book now because there are more cooking recipes in it.
So from fruition, how long has it taken you to get it to, from when you started writing page one to getting ready to start marketing it this coming month?
The actual writing part, their timeline was very tight. I started writing the book the 28th of May, and I finished writing it around the 27th of July. And then after that, we went into the different kind of sequences of editing, which at times was frustrating because I had my main editor who was really great to work with, but they contract a bunch of people that kind of get in there just to make sure nothing gets missed. And I had this one editor in particular that was just coming back with these queries that were, I mean, like one of the rubs is I named it Cowboy Coffee Steak Rub, and she was wanting to know, where do cowboys come from, and I didn't think that was really the necessary information. Why, you know what I mean? Why would I want to add where do cowboys come from? I mean, they come from all over the place, but things like that were just getting a little frustrating. I mentioned probe tender. And then she writes back, I know what fork tender is. What is probe tender? So I had to explain what that was. But anyway, all the final back and forths were done. It was another probably a month and a half later, I guess.
Oh, that's like I said, I don't know if I could do that. Just, I guess it's easier now that, from your first book, because this time you were retired, you didn't have a day job, so you had a lot more time to sit down. But I'm sure after a while, your brain starts to melt, and you have to get up and walk away from it.
Yeah, I was literally sequestering myself in the house and just sit behind the computer. And luckily, a lot of my recipes that I've done, like on my channel, or just recipes that I want to do for my channel, I always write the recipes down. So I have a binder with all my recipes, or I come up with ideas. Like actually, I came up with a really cool hamburger idea this morning while I was taking a shower, and I write it down right when I think about it. And so, luckily, I had a lot of things to look at that. I didn't have to pull recipes out of thin air. I mean, these are tried and true recipes that I've done before, and many of them have been on videos, or they'll be in future videos.
Well, hopefully, it wasn't a shampoo burger.
No, no. Actually, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's Thanksgiving themed, and
gotcha.
It's going to be a pretty cool burger. I'm very excited about making this burger.
Well, that's good. Yeah, Thanksgiving's coming up. All the turkey recipes. Are you going to be doing some turkey recipes on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I plan on it. I'm like to do probably a turkey in my Lone Star grills, offset, maybe one in the pit barrel cooker.
Yeah, I did a couple sous vide turkey recipes last year, and they were very popular. So I'm sure I'll do another one this year. I just got to try to make it just a little bit different. I did one where I did a whole, turkey sous vide, and then I broke one down into pieces because, there's several different ways you can do it sous vide. Spatchcock, I did a spatchcock one as well. So there's just so many different things you can do with it. But I might not even do a sous vide one this year because I did those last year. I might just do a regular, put one on a rotisserie on the Kamado Joe or something like that. So
how did you finish off the whole bird that you sous vide?
I just put it in the grill at like 475 for 45 minutes, because you're really not cooking the internal. You're just trying to get the skin crispy.
Yeah.
It's either that or, I've done a couple of turkey breasts, and I just threw them in the convection oven at like 475 and, for like 35, 40 minutes. Cause all you're doing is you're wanting that high, air heat to crisp the outside of it and give it a little bit of color. Everything else is, done on the inside. So, and it's funny with with poultry like that. It's kind of like the stall with a brisket or a pork butt, the internal temperature doesn't rise very fast. So it gives you a good, 35, 40 minutes of good heat to get to the skin before the internal temp starts rising. So
That's good.
works out really good.
Yeah.
But so the sous vide barbecue book is still on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all that. So make sure everybody checks that out. And what's the name of the new book again?
It's called American Barbecue Sauces. Then there's like kind of a subtitle, Marinades, Rubs, and More from the South and Beyond.
Now, when's that going to be available on Amazon?
So it's available right now for pre-order, and it will be released on the 26th of November.
All right. So I'll actually put a link to both of the books down below in the description of the podcast, so they can at least go and pre-order it right now. So that's good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But
now, do you have any holiday themes, seasonings or anything in that book, or is it strictly just barbecue stuff and rubs and all that?
No, there's nothing specific for the holidays, but there's a lot of things I think would go well, with the holidays, like some, like orange flavors and, things that I think would go great with, your Thanksgiving or Christmas turkey or ham.
Well, anyway, it's going to be a good stocking stuffer or gift for the barbecue lover out there. So any barbecue lovers out there, make sure you tell your significant others that you want a copy of Greg's new book. So Greg Mrvich of Ballistic BBQ YouTube channel, I want to thank you again for joining me. It's always great to have you on. Hope to have you on again, especially when your burger book is getting ready to release.
Darren, you will get the first copy when that burger book finally comes out.
I definitely want it because, like I said, watching your burger videos is whenever I see I get a notification, Greg, Ballistic Barbecue, and I'm like, boop, it's got to be a new burger.
I'll be doing a video here really soon, another burger video, but my upcoming video is going to be pretty crazy stuff. It's not a burger. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but I will say that it's Halloween themed.
Oh, nice. So check out Ballistic Barbecue on YouTube, check out Sous Vide Barbecue BBQ on Amazon, and check out the link below for the other books, and make sure you follow Greg, and I'll talk to you again soon, Greg. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me, Darren. Appreciate it.
All right. And I'll talk to you again on the next Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I want to thank Greg Mrvich one more time for being on. Check out Ballistic Barbecue on YouTube. Check out Sous Vide Barbecue on Amazon. And also check out his Rubs and Sauces book. There'll be a link down in the description below. Check out Inkbird, our sponsor. They have some great barbecue thermometers and a great sous vide circulator. Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow us on our Fire and Water Cooking channel on YouTube. And I'll see you again on the next Fire and Water Cooking Podcast.